Afternoon, Gary.
Oh, good afternoon, Rich.
How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing well. How's the weather in Riderwood?
Oh, it's a little bit on the chilly side.
Yeah, it's
In
pretty
fact,
chilly.
it's time
there.
for chili.
It is time for chili, right? I'd love a big bowl of chili right now. I think that would just hit the spot.
You got me thinking now. I'll go in and see if I can't make some.
Yeah. Ooh, nothing better than homemade chili, that's for sure. I'm a chili guy, and it's been chilly out here too. We're seeing it. Oh, my wife's flower garden is now just mush. So yeah. So anyway, well, hey, we had a fun game last week. We talked about that in the wrap up, and we've won 3 out of 4 games. So
yeah,
we definitely
this one's pretty important.
This one's really important. Kick us off on this one, Gary.
Well, the Vikings have been pretty hot here lately.
Mm-hmm.
And let me go into a little bit of history, as I've been known to do.
You have.
And our very first game with them was October, what was that, 1961.
Wow.
And we won that one 38-24.
Well, there you go. So was that when Minnesota joined the NFL? Were they already, or were they an expansion?
I really don't have that history.
I'll bet they're an expansion.
Probably are.
Yeah.
And then the second game, we beat them 38-28, which was only a month later.
Well, there you go. Only a month later. I wonder why we played them twice in 1 month. That's interesting. Who knows how they did those things back then when we were kids,
But over time, we've played them 48 times.
Wow.
We've won 24. They've won 23, and we had one tie.
Oh.
So we can't get much closer than that.
You sure can't. Well, that's a rivalry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, usually when you hear those kinds of numbers, it's a rivalry. And that's
But
about as close to 500 football.
Was in 2020.
And we won, right?
And we won 27-10. Garoppolo over Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, this year's Kirk Cousins is a little different than last year.
Yeah, well, the previous game to that was in 2018, which was also Garoppolo and Cousins. But the Vikings won that one 24-16.
Okay. Not a blowout, but convincing win. Interesting, great history, and a good wrap up there. Gary, I was taking a look at what this game means to the standings. And, right now we're tied with Minnesota, New Orleans, and San Francisco, all at 5-5. Minnesota's won 2 in a row, including that huge upset in Green Bay last weekend. We've run 2 in a row. We've talked about that. People have heard us talk about that. New Orleans has lost 3 in a row. So they're going the opposite direction. But right now, if the playoffs happen today, we'd be the one team that didn't make it in. So those 3 teams battling for those last 2 wild card places, New Orleans and Minnesota is ahead of us just based on conference record. So this game is huge.
Yes.
For both the Niners and Minnesota. And Minnesota's coming off a huge win against the Packers. We had that huge win against the Rams 2 weeks ago. But this is how huge this game is. So this is from the odds maker 538. I like those guys. They do a really good job of setting odds and explaining why they set them. But right now, based on their projections, they give Minnesota a 59% chance of being in the playoffs. If they beat the 49ers, that number jumps to 82%. If they lose, it falls to 42%, and we move into the wild card spot. It's a big game.
Yes, it is.
This is a big game. So I just kind of rattled off a bunch of numbers there. Gary, what do you think about this?
Well,
game?
I watched the game 3 times.
Oh, okay. The Green Bay Minnesota game?
And it was, it was really close. And the kicker for Green Bay missed a field goal that he shouldn't have missed.
Oh, right.
So, and the scores were misplays by the Green Bay defensive backs. They dropped the ball, so to speak.
Right.
That is what I saw. And
Okay.
We're pretty much going to be playing ourselves as far as the way that teams play. Both the Vikings and the 49ers do a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
We put a lot more window dressing on it and a lot more disguise than they do.
Yeah,
And
they're a power football team.
if we
they're
win
in
the
that-
trenches, we win the game.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think Jimmy's going to have a lot to say about whether we win this game or not as well. I was looking at Cousins' numbers against Green Bay. I mean, Cousins is red hot. He threw for 341 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had a QBR of 127. And when he passes for over 275 yards, they're 5-1 this season. So they're really riding, right? But he's coming through. So to me, Jimmy's really got to be a significant part of that. Now, that being said, the Niners defense is allowing 6.9 yards per attempt, but they're holding teams overall to just 202 yards per game. And we're ranked 3rd. Our defense is ranked 3rd in the NFL in points against. So Cousins has been red hot. But if our defense continues to play the way they have here, that'll be a problem for Cousins.
Well, they play the way they have here because the offense has been eating the clock apart, eating it up. The defense doesn't have to play all that much. They not only do they stay fresh, but they don't have to be on the field, so their numbers are a little bit skewed. But I don't see any reason why we can't continue on with the offense the way it is, the way it's been.
Oh, yeah. I think we have we definitely have an offense that can do damage against this defense. But their offense is still scary. And let me toss a couple more things out there at you. So Justin Jefferson's their number 1 receiver, right? So he's averaging 15 yards per reception, which is just scary. He's got 944 yards on the season. He's got 63 receptions and 6 touchdowns. Against Green Bay, he had his receptions. He was 8 for 10 for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the Niners plan on using Emmanuel Mosley against him, and clearly that guy's our best corner. And right now, Mosley's stats, in the last game, he had 10 passes defended, which was surprising to me. And the QBR against him when thrown to his side was only 74, and a 56% completion percentage. And most of those were for short gains. So it's going to be their best receiver against our best defensive back in terms of coverage. And we can't forget Adam Thielen. He also went 8 for 10 in the last game. That was only for 82 yards, but he also got a touchdown. So between those two guys, I mean, it was 225 yards of receiving with 3 touchdowns. And they went 16 for 20 between the two guys. Thielen will face Josh Norman. And I think Norman's gotten better every week. I was really happy with the way.
I agree with that.
So, I mean, there's the rub. I think, you know, and if I summarize again, just my own thinking, Garoppolo's got to match Cousins, and our defense needs to continue to keep folks out of the end zone and below 210 yards per game. If we hold Cousins below 275 yards, we win this game.
Well, I see their weak spot is their offensive line.
They're running like mad. They have a brutal running back. What's the guy's
But
name?
it's breakaways occasionally that makes it look so good. And so I think that our defensive line can beat their offensive line.
Okay.
And I've got all faith in the world in our offensive line, as you well know. I'm kind of partial to those guys.
I do too right now. I think they're playing really well.
But Trent won't get another chance at a
touchdown
eligible.
That was great. I was reading what he had to say about that, not to get off subject, but he said he turned around and he saw Jimmy threw it. Jimmy threw it way over his head. He had no chance of getting that, but he said he jumped in the air and he says, I don't know who hit me, but it felt like 10 guys hit me. And he said, all of a sudden, I have a lot more respect for receivers. So,
he's been after Kyle to do that all year long.
Oh, has he?
And he says, I can get open. And Kyle says he couldn't get open. It'll be a while before that happens again.
Yeah. Well, he got hammered. He was back there. So that's probably, excuse me, not a bad thing. So yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing that again. Hey, here's one more number I'm going to throw at you and see what you think about this. So we're talking about our defensive line, how well they've done, and statistically they've done beautifully. Minnesota's only allowed 14 sacks this whole season. That's second in the NFL. So if you look at that and you look at the way Delvin Cook has been running, that says their offensive line is playing real good football. What do you think?
Well, that's not what I saw. And I don't know whether they have injuries or not. I haven't delved that deep in the all 22 hasn't broken yet on NFL, so I haven't had a chance to really get into it and look at it good.
Okay.
But I can just say what I saw. And I think that's their weak point, particularly their right tackle.
Okay.
And guess who he's going to be going against?
Who?
Bosa.
Bosa. Yeah. Bosa's just coming on. He's just stronger every single week. He's learning. He missed last season, right? So he's only played one rookie season. And you can see that he's clearly a veteran now and getting better every game. It's pretty exciting to know that he's there and that he's going to be around for a long time because we just filled his pockets with cash, right?
So you're going to go out on a limb with a score?
So the line right now is San Francisco by 3. I'll stick with the line. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I think Kirk Cousins is the real deal.
We're playing him in our house. That ought to give us something.
Well, what the odds makers do is they start with 7 points and they give that to the home team, and then they start factoring in all this stuff that they factor in, and they all have a different way of doing it. but right now across the board in Las Vegas, it's 3 points. And I think it's going to be a close game.
Well, I think the fans are going to be a rocking. I think
you cut off there, Gary.
they all woke up. They're not going to be
the
sitting
fans.
on their
Oh
hands.
yeah, it's about time. I think I think the reason that they've been sitting on their hands, and I had a number written down here. Yeah, this season we're 1-4 at home.
Yeah.
So that's why the crowd doesn't cheer. What's there to cheer when you get your fanny handed to you at home? It's pretty hard to get excited, right? So, and the games haven't been selling out. Well, this one's going to sell out.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, this one's going to sell. This is a big, big game, and people who are really faithful are really the faithful. They understand how big this game is. So, Niners are favored by 3. Minnesota is 5-0 versus the spread this year when they're the underdog. I don't like that. So you combine that with the Niners being 1-4 at home, and that's kind of scary. But the Vikings, on the other side, the Vikings defense, their rush defense, they're allowing 4.8 yards per carry as a team, which is tied for 31st in the NFL. And their defense, and now this is what you talk about with their defensive line. They're allowing 127 yards per game, which is oh, now I lost my place. Oh, which is 27th in the NFL. So those two numbers don't bode well for Minnesota, and they back what you're saying about the offensive line.
Well, they're right where our strength is, too.
Well, our defensive line, absolutely. So I'm worried about 3 players on Minnesota. And that's their 2 wideouts and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, I think we either match up well or we could even dominate. But boy, Kirk Cousins is scary. So that's kind of my wrap on this thing. Gary, what do you think?
No, I think you're pretty much right on. I think we're going to win. I'd like to have it wrapped up by halftime, but I always want it wrapped up by halftime.
You want it wrapped up by the first quarter.
Halftime would be best. I like this. I like those quarter-long drives with a score at the end. I like that a lot.
Boy, I like that too. It's going to be a lot harder to do against this team. That's for sure.
Yeah, because these guys are as good as the Rams. Well, wait a minute.
No,
we did that to the Rams too.
Yeah, we did that to the Rams. But they, they're coming off a huge win against Green Bay, so we can't get big heads about this thing.
I wouldn't call that a huge win. They won. Well,
for them, it was a huge win.
No, they like to think so.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
They shouldn't have won the game,
but they did.
Just everything fell in their lap.
Yeah,
everything went just right.
Yeah,
and Rodgers did not have a good game.
No. I mean, everything that I've read about that, he didn't. But again, we got to remember that Minnesota's offense had a really big day.
Where are you going to watch the game?
Well, I'll tell you, Gary, I'm thinking about heading to downtown Vancouver to watch the game with a whole lot of 49er faithful. And the Niner Empire Vancouver meets every game at the Heathen Brewing Farrell Public House If you just look at Heathen on Washington Street, you should find them. One more time, Heathen Brewing Farrell Public House. So that's where I'll be watching the game, Gary, and excited to be with a whole bunch of other faithful. What about you? Where are you going to be?
I think I'll join you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. They have raffles down there too.
They do have raffles, and you know what else they have? They have a kids raffle at halftime. So every kid that comes that's under 12 years old gets a free ticket just for walking in the door with their folks.
That's great.
And at halftime, as soon as halftime starts, we get the kids together. We draw one ticket, one kid gets to pick. We have gifts specifically for the kids, or if they want to, they can go take it off the regular raffle table. It's up to them. Last week, the winner went to the raffle table and chose. So great food, great company. How do you beat that, Gary?
I don't know. Well, maybe we can bring some Toys for Tots.
Maybe we can. The Toys for Tots drive just started. Thank you for bringing that up. It's so important, faithful here in Vancouver. Congratulations on a great food drive. I dropped off the food at the Clark County Food Bank yesterday, and we had 2 full carts of food. So congratulations, folks. Really, really a great job. Now let's do the same thing with Toys for Tots. Gary just mentioned we started last weekend. Please remember those here in Vancouver that are less fortunate than us, and bring a toy down if you can afford to. And we'll make sure that those get into kids' hands. So,
well, should we talk about the history between the Vikings and the 49ers? Because without that history, there is no future.
That's right. Without the history, there is no future. Are you taking us out of here, Gary?
I think so. We'll say goodbye until next time.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Good to talk to you. See you this weekend. And go Niners.
Yeah, go Niners.